Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
This next letter comes from Angel Sabino, member of the Post-Geek Singularity. Hello, Mr. Burnett. First of all, thank you for reading the letter I sent asking about the state of collecting physical media in the first week of June. This brings me to commenting on your June 12th video. Great letter from Mr. Wigglesworth. Ah, the days of Laserdiscs. I also worked for a video store company back in the 90s that you might remember. Tower Records and Video. Oh, man. In Seattle, Tower Records on Mercer Street. It's like Mecca. I went there once a week. This was actually a great time in my life where I enjoyed going to work every day. By the way, there is an incredible documentary about Tower Records and what it meant. And it was directed by Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son. And it's called, I think it's called All Things Must Pass. Hang on, let me check. I believe it is. Yes, All Things Must Pass, Tower Records. Hang on, I'm just going to check on this so you know, because yes, All Things Must Pass, the rise and fall of Tower Records. If you guys want to see a great pop culture documentary, Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, directed All Things Must Pass, the rise and fall of Tower Records. I cannot recommend it highly enough, especially if you ever used to shop at Tower Records. Oh man, I'm telling you. Anyway, Tower Records video. Back to the letter. And this was actually a great time in my life where I enjoyed going to work every day. It is also when I was exposed to the Laserdisc format. I bought my first Laserdisc at Tower Records. I had over the years amassed a large collection of films on VHS and Beta. Yes, Beta. When I began working at Tower Video and I was living the dream, access to every new video release, meeting movie stars like Whoopi Goldberg, Giancarlo Esposito, Kathleen Turner, and Christian Slater, this is getting to a point. I went from being a security guard to being a buyer for the Laserdisc department, and my life was changed. My brother, me too. I've never met another buyer for the laser video disc division except my friend Craig Hyland. At this point, I had no clue or understanding about aspect ratio, but quickly I did learn. One of my favorite films at the time was Die Hard, and I, of course, had it on VHS, but then I saw it on Laserdisc. Came out in 1988 on Laserdisc. And damn, did everything change for me at that point. I couldn't believe how much information I was missing from my pan and scan tapes. I know, shocking, right? The horror I felt realizing how terrible it was to watch films on VHS just floored me. I quickly began hunting down all of my favorite films on Laserdisc. Of course, being a buyer in this store just made it easier for me to acquire many foreign discs. Some I remember were the Guyver, Gamera, and many Godzilla films. I don't even want to think about the money I was spending at this point in my life when I didn't even have it, but I had to have my LDs. Oh my God, that was me too. And they were ungodly expensive, those Japanese imports. I remember the day that I met Christian Slater and had him sign a Laserdisc copy of Heathers that I was picking up that same day. Oh, the memories. I hung on to the format as long as possible, but like you stated, the times would change. Players were no longer being made, I believe, around the early 2000s, and DVD had taken us all by storm. So guess what? I followed with it. And woe was my wallet. I felt I would always be able to keep my Laserdisc collection, but sadly my players did break down, and also I had much of my collection affected by the dreaded laser rot. Oh, the tears. So once again, I was rebuying things on DVD, which of course led to Blu-ray. I haven't replaced all of my DVDs with Blu-ray because sadly enough of it was getting way too expensive. Now we have 4K. No, I have not jumped on this bandwagon yet. Which brings me to my question. I know you have discussed this already and even answered me about collecting before, but I wonder, do you really feel it was a necessary thing to move to the 4K format? I struggle with this whenever I walk into Best Buy and see all these new transfers on 4K while I rummage through the $4.99 Blu-ray bin. I love film. I love my films, but I can't seem to justify doing this again with another format. I know it will eventually be my choice, but how do you really feel about this? Will we be doing this again in 10 years when the next format is unleashed upon us? I end this letter as I'm about to pop in my 3D Blu-ray of Doctor Strange. Yes, I have several 3D Blu-rays. I have that 3D Blu-ray. I got it from the UK. Beta, VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. Oh my. Thank you in advance if you decide to read this. always eager to hear your words. Angel S, or if you fancy it, Xavier12202. Live long and prosper. Well, Angel, thanks for this letter because, man, I lived at Tower Records. I had a routine. I would go every week to Tower Records, usually on Friday or Saturday. I either went down after school or on Saturday before or after work because it was open till midnight. And I would buy vinyl. I'd buy import 12-inch remixes, usually of British bands. By the way, The Cult is playing tonight at the Greek Theater here in LA, and I'm not going, just saying. But I would buy 12 inches. Then I would go look at their import CD section because I found music that I didn't even like, bands like A Certain Ratio that were on Factory Records. I was like, ooh, I'll buy anything that's on anything that Factory put out because they put out New Order. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Trevor Horn's label, ZTT, Zang Tum Tum. If there was ever anything that was on ZTT, actually, I think A Certain Ratio was on ZTT. Now I think about it. No, maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. See, it's all a fog. Or 4AD that put out like Cocteau Twins, early Bauhaus, Clan of Zymox. I mean, there were record labels I bought. There's just any CD that would come out. By the way, there's a great book that came out in the UK, and I forget the name of it, but it's about the history of 4AD records. It's like as big as a phone book. If you guys like, you remember Pump Up the Volume, Pump Up the Volume, Pump Up. That was a 4AD release. Pump Up the Volume, dance, dun 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 dun. Anyway, I digress. But Tower Records, so I would go there and I would look at the 12 inches. I'd look at the import CDs. I'd look at the laser discs, and I'd look at the soundtracks. And I did that every single week. And I usually dropped, back then it wasn't expensive. Import CDs were ungodly expensive, and Japanese laserdiscs were ungodly expensive. But, you could get away with a great haul from Tower Records for $100. And I had a job, so that didn't seem like it was too much. But I miss Tower Records. And I kind of got that same experience from the Virgin Megastore here. But then that went away too. And then Tower Records added books as well, which was kind of neat.